City Council, if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Start with a roll call, please.
Mayor White? Here. Deputy Mayor Feller?
Here.
Councilmember Kine?
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez? Councilmember Sanchez just entered the chamber.
Go to our general item, which is adoption of a resolution ratifying a proclamation of a local emergency.
Honorable Mayor and council members, staff will be providing a presentation for you with a recommendation to adopt the resolution, but an overview of the rain event on Friday and damages to public infrastructure as a result. And so Deputy Chief Pete Lawrence will go first, followed by Carrie Dale and then Kyle Koger, and we will all be available for questions after the presentation.
All right, good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of Council, Pete Lawrence, Division Chief of the Fire Department. And I've been asked to give some context and some information relating to the storm that occurred this last Friday. So we had a week's worth of rain, but the important part is that on Friday we set a single-day rainfall record for Oceanside. Obviously, it's the harbor. It's not further inland, but we had a 3.18-inch day, 24-hour day, starting at midnight, and those records there go back until 1909. So the most rain we've had in a single day in any month throughout the last 111 years. So our biggest problem as well was the rainfall rate. We didn't just have one day of rain, but we had a whole week's worth of rain, and we had very high 12-hour rates. So we had 2 inches of rain throughout the city through the course of the day, and it was falling on the backs of a lot of rain that had occurred over the week, leading to saturated soils. So the runoff that occurred on Friday was pretty astronomical for all of the flooding that we've had here in the city. Our calls for service, both police and fire, went up 50%. There was a large quantity of people that were, and we were lucky that it wasn't a normal Friday where people were out driving, because our traffic accidents were not a huge component, but lots of calls for service ranging from fires to flooding calls to water rescues to trees into buildings. We had a lot of tree failures, again, or trees that fell over because of the saturated soils that we were encountering. The San Luis Rey River has been trending very low. minimal water flow. It increased in flow over 1,000% in one day. We went from a 7-foot height to a 16-foot height. And to put that kind of in context is the flow, and people talk about cubic feet per second. Most people don't. It's 7 gallons, I think, per cubic foot. It went from 224,000 gallons per minute to 2.5 million gallons per minute at its peak. And so it peaked at a little over 16 feet. On Friday, it went up immediately. It was not a gradual, it was a very rapid rise. So it gives you an indication of the amount of rain that fell not only here in Oceanside, but in the Henshaw Basin, basically, and the San Luis Rey Valley. So a tremendous amount of water all at once. Fortunately, we didn't have any flooding events, but it did break through at the harbor, and we ended up with a lot of debris that traveled onto the beaches, etc. So emergency proclamation. This is the first time since the 1990s we've had concurrent emergencies running, and that was a flooding event where we got hit twice in the same month by floods. So we've had a local emergency in effect for the coronavirus. A local emergency was proclaimed by the city manager on the 10th of April. And neither the county nor any other cities within the county have proclaimed a local emergency because this was a very localized kind of event. It was pretty much Del Mar to about midway through Camp Pendleton, let's say Las Pulgas. The rainfall that occurred in San Clemente was in the hundredths of an inch versus in the multiple inches. So you can see that this was basically a stream of water that was aimed at the North County. The city proclaimed a local emergency because we did have significant damage, and we have water utilities and public works here to speak to the damage that occurred to their individual facilities. The reason I bring up that neither the county nor the city has proclaimed a local emergency is because it does make things a little bit more interesting for us as a city, but we do have a strategy for hopefully getting federal or state financial aid. I do not anticipate that we will get any federal, but we will be able to get reimbursement assistance hopefully from the governor. If we can't get it from the governor, then we're going to work towards a director's concurrence, which we did in 1991. In 91, we had significant rainfall and we had damage to the Douglas Bridge. We were one of the few cities with significant infrastructure damage. It was about $1 million repair, and we were able to get the director to concur that we had significant damage. The downside is we don't get any emergency work covered. We just get permanent work, but that's our fallback. So we're hoping to be able to get through this emergency proclamation, get the emergency work and the emergency contracting taken care of, and then move towards trying to get reimbursement for the city. We believe that we've got sufficient damage to warrant a director's concurrence, especially given the economic impact that the COVID virus is taking on the city's finances. And so that's what we're going to be working towards. At this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to our Water Utilities Director, but will be available if there's any additional comments or questions at the end of the presentation. Bring this back up.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Carrie Dale, Water Utilities Director. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today about what we experienced last Friday. It was pretty significant. As Chief Lawrence mentioned, when we have that amount of significant rainfall occurring in such a short amount of time, this typically manifests itself in drainage through our waterways and especially additional infiltration of rainwater into the gravity sewer system. The photo that I'm showing you here appears to be a river, but it's actually the 76 freeway or 78 freeway at the El Camino overpass. It's looking south to the shops in Carlsbad. And I'm going to be talking about a couple of different infrastructure issues that we have had in this area specifically related to the flooding here. Before I go on to those descriptions of those impacts, I did want to also mention that in addition to these sewer issues, we did have water crews that were very busy on Friday supporting the public works staff in responding to some of the landslide issues that you'll hear Kyle talk about. So the silver lining in this emergency is that we actually did well with some of our projects, one of them being the emergency work to protect the manhole at Haymar Drive. City Council had declared an emergency for repair work on February 26th. That manhole is adjacent to the eastbound lane in the 78 freeway just to the east of the El Camino overpass. This is a picture of that site. And here you can see, if you want to look at the screen, there's a dark image here. That's sheet pile shoring that was put in place to divert flow away from the manhole so we didn't have further erosion. The contractor had also worked through a previous storm a few weeks prior and was successful in protecting the manhole. The picture on the left is a close-up of the sheet pile shoring, which helped to divert the stream flows away from the manhole, and on the right are additional boulders that were put in place to protect the manhole. So from this perspective, we did very well. We did not have any sort of ruptured pipes or ruptured manholes. However, we did experience overflows and infrastructure damage at 3 other sites in the city. The first one being the Buena Vista lift station, which is located just west of that flooded picture I showed you on the 78. The Buena Vista lift station is located south of the 78 freeway in the parking area of the mall. This is the aerial view of the site here. It's a little over 2 acres, and it has an abandoned treatment facility on site as well as 2 separate lift stations, an old lift station and a new lift station. And this is a video that our crews took of the berm that butts up against the Buena Vista Creek, and to the left you'll see that the berm was breached. Flood waters were spilling into the site, and everything was underwater: pumps, motors, electrical, switchgear. This is another aerial photo taken later in the day on Friday when we had an opportunity to actually get a drone up when the rain stopped for a little bit. I think it was about 6:30 p.m. You'll see the site is totally underwater. Again, it's adjacent to the Buena Vista Creek, just on the top part of the photograph. This picture shows one of our 3 of our 5 motors that have been a total loss at the station. This was taken on Saturday after some drainage had occurred. We also lost 2 blowers and blower fans, 3 drive shafts and bearings, 3 check valves will have to be rebuilt. The damage to the electrical equipment, as you can imagine, is significant. It really does not like to be wet. We've lost 5 soft starters, bypass contactors, motor savers, breakers, electronics, and SCADA hardware. This picture was taken Saturday after significant drainage had occurred. So in total, our preliminary estimate of damages at this site to restore facilities is approximately $500,000. Up until the time that the site was flooded, the station was working and pumping sewage for treatment up to our San Luis Rey plant. When it was flooded and pumps were no longer able to convey the sewage for treatment, we did spill approximately 1.2 million gallons into the creek. As with the next projects that I'll talk about, we have been in contact with the regulatory agency to give them a preliminary heads up about the issues that we had experienced on Friday. In addition, we also had significant drainage that came in through the gravity sewer system leading into the Oceanside Boulevard lift station, which is located on Oceanside Boulevard and I-5, just to the west. This is a picture of Vine Street where we had water coming up through manholes. This is one of several areas where we had water coming up into the street. And in total, the amount spilled was 38,000 gallons. Additionally, our main wastewater treatment facility, the San Luis Rey Water Reclamation Facility off the North River Road, also experienced difficulties. This is a picture of our SCADA flow trends. In brown, the squiggly line that you see going up and down, that is the raw influent or the amount of raw sewage that was coming into the plant in brown. The blue trend shows the flow that